Oh yeah.
We can commence our press conference. If you can get ready so that we can commence. It is our privilege and greatest honor to welcome you all at this important National Democratic Union Group NDWG press conference. My name is Isaiah Nawana, the current Head of Information and Communications, Harare Province, and today I'm wearing the shoes of the national spokesperson as the national head, Darlington Jigwena, is on leave. With me here is Dr. Ureya Zembe. Immediate to me is Dr. Ureya Zembe, who is the Northern Region Facilitator. Immediate after Dr. Zembe is Mr. Karen Shumba, who is our Director of Information and Communications. Then immediate from him, we've got Mr. Engineer, Mr. Makate, who is our national member for the executive. And on the far left, we've got Engineer Mugari, who is our chief organizer. I greet you all. We are equally elated with this overwhelming response from different media houses who are coming from both print and electronic categories, notwithstanding freelancers who have also joined us here. Of course, with our members who are here present. Dr. Ureya Zembe will take you through this press conference, and we are going to accord you question time after his submissions. All questions will be taken through myself as I preside over this presser from onset to the end. I take this opportunity to call our Northern Region Facilitator, Dr. Ureya Zembe, to open the floodgates as the press conference commences now. Thank you for coming in our dedicated media fraternity. Over to you.
Thank you, MC Landawa, for inviting me to make a presentation of the National Democratic Working Group, a civic consultative movement headed by the National Chairman and Chief Facilitator, Honorable Advocate Job Sikhala. You have given me a task. I need to welcome you, members of the press, seasonal greetings of a new year, 2025. We have studied it well because this is a robust encounter, an interactive encounter, and my job is a formal one, to present the official press statement from the National Democratic Working Group, NDWG. Let's get into the presentation, ladies and gentlemen. Rejection of Emerson Mnangagwa's 2030 life presidency plot in Zimbabwe. The National Democratic Working Group, NDWG, holds this press conference when our nation is at a crossroads. The illegitimate ZANU-PF regime of Emerson Mnangagwa is mounting one problem after another to the general masses of Zimbabwe. The NDWG, as a national voice of the masses of our people for the fulfillment of objectives of the national democratic revolution, has noticed that the illegitimate ZANU-PF regime wants to usurp, I repeat, to usurp the powers of the people through a nocturnal agenda to subvert the national constitution and extend life of the illegitimate regime by abolishing the 2028 elections, which are supposed to be due in the country. And we have a constitutional write-up. The existing constitutional write-up states that we must hold free, fair elections in 2028 after Mnangagwa's second term has ended in that year. And that is a democratic right of the citizens of Zimbabwe to appoint a civilian elected government. This sinister plot exacerbates the general suffering of our people through the introduction of the taxation regime recently introduced to fund the looting of public resources by the regime and the expenditure of luxuries of the looting elites. Schools have opened under great depression of the teaching staff who are underpaid and suffering. Children walking to school under deprivation and poverty. Parental difficulties, pay school fees, and inadequate school needs for the children and the teaching staff. Corruption and the looting of our national resources are at the scale unimaginable. The youth and the tertiary education students are facing unmitigated challenges. Unemployment has reached a world record of 90%. Hunger, starvation, and poverty have become the ally of millions of our people. The masses are suffering, ladies and gentlemen. All of us are part of the masses. And we are not an exception. We are suffering because for the past 45 years, the ZANU-PF regime has been brewing destruction and economic decay, corruption and other ills. The health system has collapsed, while the so-called electricity load shedding and intermittent power outages have become economically disruptive. You can't do anything under the current environment. When you look at the governance system that has gone haywire in this country, the ZANU-PF brewed destruction for 45 years. In other words, the oppression, crime, rate and abuse of drugs have scaled heights that have never been measured anywhere in the world. And that is true. We saw the ranking of the miserable ranking a couple of months ago. Zimbabwe occupied the first slot. You know, from the findings of those investigators who really were investigating throughout the whole world, the nation that most suffers, that is the most miserable nation. This is the State of the Nation address. That's where we are, ladies and gentlemen, the citizens of this country. Great country, of course. Human resources is here. That's why we are engaging in this interactive crescent. In our nationwide consultation and engagement with the people of our country towards the holding of a national democratic convention, the masses are calling upon a strong response to the attempts by the ZANU-PF regime and its surrogate sidekicks to subvert the constitution and extend their life of existence beyond what the people of Zimbabwe agreed to be an inviolable cardinal rule of how our nation must be governed. This nation has a constitution, and that constitution does not reside in a constitutional write-up, but in the hearts and minds of the citizens of this country. That is the constitution we are referring to here, which is being referred to by the National Democratic Working Group. As you know, the constitution should come from the people. Rather, people are demanding fresh elections this year, this 2025 year. This is what we are getting in our consultative process, to say that we have never had the democratic elections since 1980. And now in 2023, we saw what happened. So the people of this country are already demanding that we deserve to have a legitimate civilian government elected in free, fair, open elections. They want to govern, they want a government that derives its mandate from the people. What happened in August 2023 was a charade that left our country as the laughing stock of the civilized world. People are demanding free, fair, and democratic elections that will usher in a democratic a government of their choice, a democratic, legitimate government of their choice. This is the demand of the people already on the ground. That is what we are discovering. And the people, as we move into the year, are going to package their demand in resolutions emanating from the People's Democratic Convention, which the National Democratic Working Group will be organizing in the first half of this year. We have witnessed activities in the recent past whose agenda is to undermine the masses of our people and the National Democratic Revolution. As the National Democratic Working Group, we totally reject any attempt to tamper with the future of our nation. Listen to this one carefully, more carefully. We unreservedly condemn and reject Emerson Mnangagwa's Prikabe animal farm plot to ban the 2028 national elections and impose his 2030 life president's personal dynastic rule in Zimbabwe. This is what Emerson Mnangagwa is planning right now as we engage in this press conference. No creation of a personal dynastic rule in Zimbabwe. Is this what the Zimbabweans want? No, clearly no. We are finding that is National Democratic Working Group. The freedom of our nation is not something that can be traded with anything as if it is a cheap commodity in a dumped market where you sell cheap tomatoes and so on, rotten tomatoes. No! This is what the people of Zimbabwe are saying. We cannot be traded like we are commercial commodities. The human rights abuses witnessed in the recent past cannot be allowed to continue. As the NDWG, we have heard the cries of the masses of our people when engaging them in the consultative process that we are continually carrying out throughout the whole four corners of our country, Zimbabwe. As the people-centered consultative movement, the National Democratic Working Group calls upon all progressive political parties and pressure groups in Zimbabwe and in the diaspora to come on board and join other progressive forces constituting the NDWG in order to deliver a fatal blow to the current ZANU-PF dictatorship. Ladies and gentlemen, we are under siege. You can see that this dictatorship is intensifying in the wrong direction. Zimbabweans do not want a personal dynastic rule in government. They want a democratic elected government, elected by the majority citizens of our country. Yet what we are seeing and what we witnessed at the weekend at the Prikabe animal farm goes against popular demand. The National Democratic Revolution needs all hands on deck. The unity of the progressive people of our nation in our different forms, colors, and diversity is central in delivering the National Democratic Revolution. That is the change Zimbabweans deserve to have. The National Democratic Revolution will deliver our people out of the oppressive dictatorship we have been living under for the past 45 years. And this is serious. It's almost half a century with the ZANU-PF concocting this destructive oppression that we are experiencing. But things have begun. And there's going to be, citizens of this country are going to be robust in defending their democratic right to put a democratic government. Now is the time for all progressive forces to build a formidable bloc to struggle against tyranny of several decades under one roof. The change agents have to come under one roof. We can't be defeated by a minority or by one person. Zimbabweans are, as we are expressing here, calling on the leadership in the contra-opposition movement, contrary to the dictatorial governance, ZANU-PF, Mnangagwa governance we are having. We can't have the luxury of having us divided on the face of the challenges we are facing as a nation. We have also taken notice of the developments in the region. We want to congratulate the people of Botswana for delivering democratic change for the people. We saw what happened in Namibia. Things aren't well there. The interference by the ZANU-PF regime in the electoral processes of other countries in the SADC region is hereby condemned without reservations. It's just invading other countries and sending dubious voters to do an act in a jurisdiction which does not belong to Zimbabweans. Kushunukira dzimwe nyika kuri kuitwa nehurumende yeZANU-PF ya Emerson Mnangagwa, and creating a huge risk for citizens of this country. Already we have had citizens who were killed in the neighboring countries because of the action that was meted out by Emerson Mnangagwa, who happens to be the chairman of the defunct SADC regional body. As of now, that is it. Ladies and gentlemen, we see the struggle of the people of Mozambique, whose will has been subverted. We convey our heartfelt solidarity with them to continue fighting for their freedom. Their struggle is our struggle. We are with them until victory. We despise and abhor dictatorship and impunity wherever it raises its ugly head. We call, as NDWG, upon the international community to reject the stolen will of Mozambicans and help the people to hold genuine democratic elections for the formation of a legitimate government in Mozambique. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Zembe, our Nobel Meeting Facilitator, for presenting a very critical statement in this press. This is now a segment where we invite the media to pose their questions, and you introduce yourself, the name and the organization where you are coming from. Then we take maybe 3 questions at a time, and we move on. This is the time to give you the question time and answer time. You are now free to come in from the media fraternity. Thank you so much.
Okay, my name is Willis Moyo. I'm a freelance journalist. President Emerson Mnangagwa is on record saying that he would not do anything that is outravious the constitution of Zimbabwe. And I read somewhere in today's paper where the Justice Minister was being quoted saying that they are ready to implement the resolution of their party's conference, part of their conference resolutions, the effect of extending the term for President Mnangagwa. But they don't intend, like you were saying, they don't intend to do it against the spirit of the Constitution. And you are saying they will do everything according to the Constitution, meaning to say they will go ahead to make necessary amendments to make it possible. And would you then blame them for doing that for as long as they are doing it according to the dictates of the Constitution?
Thank you, Willis Moyo, for that question. Is there any other one to ask question?
Maybe you can respond to this one.
Any more questions? Then we can respond to Willis Moyo, since you are still maybe constructing questions from the media side.
My name is Privilege Reggae. I'm a freelance. My question here is
Privilege
Reggae,
okay.
freelance journalist. My question is just connecting with his question. Are you fighting Mnangagwa going to 2030, or are you fighting them breaking the law?
Thank you, Privilege Reggae, for that question.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can actually mention yourself and the organization.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Sikhala. I'm a freelance analyst. Okay, I want to, I've heard what your presentation that Mnangagwa is illegitimate and that you totally reject the efforts to go beyond 2028, yeah, 2030 agenda. I see that there are maneuvers to seek the deferment by actually amending the constitution. And that in some of our region, we know that politicians always say that politics goes beyond constitutionalism, or politics is beyond the law. If, as they are suggesting, they do it politically, there is an amendment in the Parliament. What is your attitude towards that? Because it seems that they are going politically. In ZANU-PF Congress, there was a demand within ZANU-PF to say Mnangagwa should go beyond 2028. And this seems to be happening. We see these political maneuverings happening. I want to understand what is your attitude towards that, because they seem to be pushing politically and they might end up forcing processes that would appear like they are using the people. When we know it's there, as you presented, it could be their appetite to go to stay forever in office.
Thank you. For the meantime, we want to respond on these first three questions, which were posed from our journalist panel. You can actually maybe respond from the questions which we've just assigned.
Yes, thank you, Chair. There's a common thread in the questions, the three questions, to say what's the National Democratic Working Group strategy on the current constitutional and political developments that are happening in Zimbabwe. So, the NDWG on its part has rejected those negative developments that are being championed by Emerson Mnangagwa and his ZANU-PF illegitimate government. These are acts of an illegitimate government. And therefore, the National Democratic Working Group, being a democratic, inclusive, civic movement, is anti the current dictatorial developments happening in the country. Having set our value like this, we then elaborate to say, there's a question, is the NDWG fighting Mnangagwa as an individual, or the constitutional development he claims to be implementing in order to attain his life presidency in Zimbabwe. It is very clear that the National Democratic Working Group is viciously fighting both Emerson Mnangagwa's wish, which is undemocratic, and also the changing of the constitutional write-up that is in place. Why would this nation have engaged in seeking a democratic constitution from 2008 to 2013? It is because the people of Zimbabwe inspired the constitutional text, which is in this incomplete document, which we call the Constitution. It's incomplete in the sense that the people of Zimbabwe have not been able to fully express their democratic constitutional value in the 2013 the Constitution of Zimbabwe Amendment number 20 Act of 2013. As you know, the constitutional search is a gradual process. And the changes that we are seeing now being plotted by Emerson Mnangagwa and ZANU-PF regime seek to reverse constitutionalism idea that produced the 2013 Amendment Constitution. After using it for 10 years, this is what we are seeing now. An insurrection against the constitutional wish of the people. Let me disabuse the actors, any actors, that the Constitution is not the document or what is in the document in terms of constitutional text. The Constitution is invisible, it's untouchable, it resides in the hearts and minds of Zimbabweans. The agreement that we will have term limits, it's a fundamental constitutional issue, which this nation went to war for. One person, one vote, and democratic governance. It is being reversed now by the machinations of Emerson Mnangagwa and his illegitimate ZANU-PF regime, which has actually captured the legislature, the judiciary, the executive, and has removed their location in the country of these three pillars of government to Prikabe farm. So we are having here a nation which is being governed by an individual and his sidekicks from Prikabe animal farm in Kwekwe. So the home and seat of the three conventional arms of government have been usurped and captured as we speak. So I'm still responding to the issue of the constitutional value that Zimbabweans created to say no individual should govern for 10 years as president. Zimbabwe is a nation of 16 million people with no starvation of the human resources to lead us, to develop our country, to enjoy maximum freedom, to undertake our professional pursuits and callings. And why then would we be stuck to a person who was there, in fact, in government for 45 years? Emerson Mnangagwa was there since 1980. Therefore, the National Democratic Working Group is fighting both the illegitimate ZANU-PF stay in power, because it's illegitimate from what we saw in 2023, And we are also fighting the individuals, not only Mnangagwa, those who, the sidekicks, the surrogates, who have teamed up with him. The National Democratic Working Group is fighting that. My brother, Clarence Maduko, this is what this nation is demanding, what we are saying. Because the National Democratic Working Group has become a legitimate democratic voice of Zimbabweans. As we research to have the National Convention, Dariravanu, and Imbizo, so that the nation will formally resolve to deal with the situation and to face Mnangagwa and his illegitimate government head on. Because the truth is, the Zimbabweans have done that to colonial regimes. Once upon a time, a white leader said Zimbabweans should not expect a people's democratic government in 1,000 years. Ian Douglas Smith said so. Again, the predecessor of Emerson Mnangagwa, Robert Gabriel Mugabe, who wanted to die in power, again made declarations. He had degrees in violence. Zimbabweans abhor violence. You know, this direct issue we are having is an expression of freedom, ideas. They go into our governance, into our community, and we live better. But Robert Gabriel Mugabe's government destroyed this nation. And then the successor has done wonders in the same direction. So, the politics to say that if they change according to the constitutional text, it's very undemocratic, those changes, even if they comply with their own constitutional text. Remember, it was authored by COPAC at the time when Robert Gabriel Mugabe had executive authority and power in government. He is the one who presided over the authorship of the text of what is in the Constitution of Zimbabwe, Amendment number 20, Act of 2013. And Mugabe signed under his hand what he wanted. So those powers are not democratic, they are dictatorial. So complying with an undemocratic constitutional value does not absolve Emerson Mnangagwa and his team in terms of blameworthiness. They are continuing brewing up dictatorship, which is destroying this nation. So therefore, whether they are doing it politically or constitutionally, we are saying the nation of Zimbabwe that we represent as National Democratic Working Group abhors those changes, condemn those changes by acclamation, by the strength of their voices. Zimbabweans are saying, no, this is grand nonsense, because they want democratic civilian rule, which can only come out of legitimate, free and fair, open, constitutional elections in the country. I think, Chair, I have done justice. The team players can come in and express their view to these 3 questions before we take the next.
Thank you for responding adequately. Is there anything to add from our colleagues, Mr. Karichumba?
Yeah, just to complement what Dr. Zembe stated here. I think the issue is, why would you try to run away from the culture of elections? Why would you want to entrench yourself? If you're popular, why don't you go for an election? If people are behind you, why don't you go into 2028? Surely if they believe in you, they'll vote for you. Why would you want now, in the middle of a term in which you must be governing, start an issue about elections and perpetuity, why would you do that? Unless you were unpopular and you were aware of that and you did not want to be answerable, accountable. What they are doing simply means that they are not confident enough that they've got the people behind them. If they believed that they've got people behind them, they would simply execute the mandate that they have. Govern the country, make sure that the resources we have, they are playing into our economy, they are building roads, building hospitals, good schools, and the rest of it. But obviously from what they're doing, there are people in a panic mode. They want to hold the country at ransom by hook and crook, because that is all it is. It's a bag of tricks. In any democracy, leaders are not continuously attacking the citizens by trying to change the law continuously. We should have stable laws, predictable laws. Our constitution must be sacred. It's not something that we should play around anytime at your whims. You change you change the playing field by ensuring that there are no elections in 2028 and you'll still be there. And when we get to 2030, what stops them from saying, okay, this guy has been governing well, why don't we extend to 2060? So if you look at it, it's all a scheme of crooks. This is what these guys are. There is not so much that you could say, I mean, besides to really come to terms with the fact that we are a nation under siege. Smith at some point he had this a wonderful idea that the black majority should not have one man, one vote, universal suffrage. But obviously now under this kleptocracy, they've got a new way of doing it. That votes should not even count by taking away the need for regular elections. If you are doing what you should do, you won't be afraid of people voting in the next election. So I think maybe that's what I was just saying in compliment to that.
Thank you, Director, for that input and further clarity in terms of responding to the questions which we submitted. Is that a question now? Okay, you can introduce yourself, the name and the organization.
Tinashe Matambo from Martin Soti.
Tinashe
Matambo from Martin Soti.
Matambo.
Yes. So President Emmerson Mnangagwa rejected any attempts to extend his 2028 end of term of office, right? Raising the fact that he's a constitutionalist. And if you visit the Zimbabwean Constitution, Section 320 of the Zimbabwean Constitution explicitly states that if the president seeks to extend his presidential term limit, he consult the referendum. And if he passes the referendum, it shall not benefit who? The incumbent. And the incumbent we are speaking about is the President Emmerson Mnangagwa. So if you are to say they are to extend their term limit, how are they going to do it? Also, if the constitution is to be changed, who should be consulted so that the constitution can be changed? Thank you.
Thank you, Tinashe, for your question. Leave your question to another one.
Okay. The standpoint of the NDWG. Okay, I'm Willis Moy. Yes. I'm asking about the standpoint of the NDWG. I want to know if it's a popular standpoint, because what we saw at Prekabe Farm, the leader of the opposition in the form of Senator Shabangu, openly expressing their party's support of the amendments or the extension of the. So then we want to know whether the NDWG is representing a popular maybe idea, or we are actually maybe somewhere when actually the opposition itself in the parliament is in support of it and they don't have a problem with it.
Thank you, Willis. Any other questions? Before we respond to that, to those other questions. If there are no further questions, we can respond to Tinashe Matambo from Hudson.
Yes, I think Tinashe, Emerson Mnangagwa, that's what I think, which I also think the National Democratic Working Group thinks, is not sincere in rejecting the extension of his second term, which is supposed to be the final. He is not sincere because the very same people who are close to him out there are moving on with the 2030 extension. If he were sincere, surely no close persons to him would say anything like that, because he would simply say, don't do it. So he is not sincere. In fact, he is the one Anita Tamba Wakachinjira as the preacher in ZANU-PF for a long time, to say, when I'm in close circles, I will say, I'm a constitutionalist. But you guys go out there and say it, to say it's politics, it's our conference as a ZANU-PF party. So at a conference, anything can be resolved, even if it means that it will change the constitutional value. Because what it's going to do is to rig the whole way through and say, this is what the people are saying. Already there is a motion, draft motion, moved by Mutoli, seconded by Moyo. Mutoli is a member of parliament sponsored by ZANU-PF. Moyo, I think, is a CCC candidate sponsored as an MP. I think, so the draft that is being circulated on the media, social media, is actually proposing that there is going to be a motion in Parliament wanting to change, to remove the term limitations of both the presidency, the parliamentary, and the local government authority terms. And that they are also even going to be dispensing with the need for, with the genuine referendum. As you know, a referendum is basically an opinion seeking by the incumbent regime. Even if it were, let's say it were genuine, when the referendum is being held, it is being held after some resolutions or after some policies would have been passed by the National Assembly and the Senate. Then that's when they go to a referendum. But you know, a referendum is similar to an election. It is going to be rigged by the ZANU-PF regime in order to justify those elections. And as I have said, if you check section 88 and 89 of the current constitutional write-up, you will find that the whole executive authority of Zimbabwe is in the hands of one person, the president. And that person happens to be Emerson Mnangagwa. What it means is that what he says, according to the constitutional write-up, which is not democratic, what Mnangagwa says goes. So which means that here is a totalitarian regime, according to the existing constitutional order. That constitutional order is not democratic. in the sense that a provision that puts in one office the executive authority of Zimbabwe, not of government, but of Zimbabwe as the land. It's a very defective constitutional provision because it makes us all the president's subjects. Like would you say the subjects of the Queen of England or King of England in vassal states or colonized states where the citizens of those colonized states. So in actual fact, then this is colonialism by one person and his supporting group and his family, colonizing the land, the Zimbabweans, by saying, I am the owner of the executive authority of a country. When the citizens of this country enact a democratic constitution or makes reformation, constitutional reformation, they are going to delete that provision. A president should have executive authority of his government elected by the people, not of Zimbabwe as a territory or as a country. There is a big defective constitutional provision in the existing constitutional dispensation. Look, we are getting these ideas from the people as National Democratic Working Group, saying, how does this, why is it that Zimbabwe has not been able to have a civilian change of government through democratic elections during Mugabe's time? And now for the first two elections, 2018 and 2023, Zimbabweans have failed to appoint a legitimate civilian government through elections. Citizens are engaging these issues. So at the National People's Convention, yes, we can't preempt what the people are going to resolve, but we can hear what the people are saying on the ground. And we are certain that at the convention, people are going to dictate a truly constitutional dispensation. I've answered your question. And I think the next question can be taken by members of the panel here.
Any more responses from our panel?
Did you respond to my question?
Oh, the Chavangu issue?
Yes.
Okay. We're still on this question. The Chavangu's claim to represent opposition is highly treacherous. Who gave him the mandate to represent the opposition voice of Zimbabweans? Who? He was simply given that mandate by Emerson Mnangagwa and his ZANU-PF illegitimate government. We saw the manipulations of recalling at least those who had been elected in the 2023 election to represent the people. Now that was destabilized. We saw the constitutional document in order to recall people who were elected by the citizens of this country and to impose Chavangu. So Chavangu does not have a mandate to represent opposition in this country. If it is opposition in the defunct, illegitimate parliament, which is the existing parliament is there, well, so be it. He is simply a Mnangagwa's agent and the ZANU-PF's agent. So he does not represent the constitutional value that we, even in our own individual capacity as a citizen of this country, represent. We have the right to represent the people in opposing the existing regime in an open manner. Now, all the MPs that graced the Prikabi animal farm on Sunday at the weekend certainly did not do that on behalf of the people who are opposing the ZANU-PF dictatorial rule. And even those who did not go there have no capacity, therefore, to represent the people in a legislature, in a judiciary, in an executive that have now been captured by one person. We are wondering why those MPs are not resigning en masse. No, reading from what has happened in Kwekwe at the weekend. People are actually shocked to say, what role are these MPs playing? Those who went to Prikabe Farm and those who did not go to Prikabe Farm, both from the opposition and from those in office as well. Because when you're an MP, you represent a geographical area, you represent the people. You don't represent your political party. You represent the people to solve people's problems. So all the MPs that are there now have no capacity to represent this nation in bringing development, in bringing jobs, in bringing health, in bringing affordable education, in bringing good roads, not just one trunk road to say, this is what we have done. They don't have that capacity. So I'm ending by saying the existing parliament is illegitimate, therefore, because it is comprised of people who exited an illegitimate election or a rigged election in 2023. The judiciary has no capacity to represent the people as well because it has been captured. We saw the human rights abuses. We saw how even our leader, Advocate Job Sikhala, was ill-treated for 595 days in Sikhala maximum prison. And after all that struggle, at the end of the day, he never committed any crime. No, it shows the abuse of judiciary by Mnangagwa and his ZANU-PF regime. I can conclude by saying I've mentioned the legislative arm, and then the judiciary arm, the executive. It's obvious. It was captured a long time ago. First by Mugabe, and then Mnangagwa continued with that capture to create the disaster that confronts us today. We cannot perish as Zimbabweans. You know, one person after another, dynastic rule. We don't all belong to Mnangagwa's family and to his wish and to his group, the ZANU-PF conspirators. No. I think I've done justice to the question, Moy. You have raised. If I haven't, you can always raise it through the chair so that I can revisit it and be clear on the aspects of your search.
Thank you so much for your response, ladies and gentlemen, our time is now 12:08, and I think we've actually delivered, and he has also raised the concern from your side in terms of the assets which were responded. And in this point in time, let me take this opportunity once again to thank you all for coming in this press conference. And the time which we've actually been granted, I think it is lapsed. And thank you for your efforts. And thank you so much, our team, for coming to this press conference. That is, I think we are now wrapping up, unless if there's anyone who was actually still burning with a question. But I thought and I've observed that most of the people have raised their questions, and even Willis have even asked the question for the second time, which means many who are actually in our presence were content with what was actually submitted. Thank you very much, and have a pleasure and time.
And I'll still soft copy.
Yes. Yes. Our press conference statement will be shared, the soft copy, to the media if you want it in detail, so that you can also recapture on the actual statement which was actually prepared. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.